We're now halfway through the UEFA Champions League round of 16, and that means that we know 4 of the 8 quarterfinalists of this year's Premier Continental competition. So obviously there's been a lot of action that has taken place during these first 2 legs of course, the round of 16 matches. There's been plenty of interesting talk, and of course, as I said before, we know who 4 of the quarterfinalists are. So we thought we here at Sports Today would bring you a bit of an update on who those 4 quarterfinalists are and how exactly it is that they made it this far, and more importantly, whether or not you'd rate them as favorites to win, or are the favorites to win this particular competition this year still to come in the second half of the round of 16 games. So without further ado, let's just get into who are the teams who have qualified so far, or the 4 teams that have made it into the last 8. Let's start off, of course, with Chelsea, a bit of a surprise package, admittedly, considering the kind of poor form that they'd been in, and considering the fact that despite they actually finished atop of Group E, and that they actually, were trailing 1-0 going into the second leg, they ended up beating Dortmund 2-0 in the second leg, which is of course being played at Stamford Bridge, and therefore they were able to make it into the next round. Obviously, a bit of controversy over how it is that they ended up getting that second goal. You had a Kai Havertz penalty retaken for encroachment when he missed the first, but at the end of the day, the scoreline reads 2-1 to Chelsea, and they will be the team who would be going through. So obviously massive for them that they could actually make it through, because not just for them is it important to keep making it into the next rounds, but there's plenty of managerial pressure on Graham Potter, their current manager. There was a lot of talk that he might actually end up getting the sack if he didn't actually end up winning this particular match. He's won it, clearly has bought himself some time, but you would say that Chelsea definitely are not one of the favorites going into the next round. That tag, for me at least, goes to Bayern Munich. Now, Bayern Munich have been a bit of a curious case if you're looking at this year's Champions League, because good as they've been in the continental competition, they have kind of struggled a tad in the Bundesliga, because they're pretty close neck and neck with Dortmund, and at one point even with Union Berlin. But the Champions League, they've been different gravy altogether. They topped Group C, having won 6 of their 6 matches, and that is massive for the simple reason that they had teams like Barcelona and Inter Milan in the very same group. Everyone figured that that would be the tightest or the toughest group, and Bayern absolutely cruised through. And what was more is that despite the fact that they were drawn up against a PSG side featuring the likes of Lionel Messi and Kylian Mbappe, they ended up beating PSG 3-0 over the course of the 2 legs of the round of 16. This, of course, means that they are yet to actually drop any points or any results, really, because if you look at the 6 group games as well as the 2 knockout round games, they've won 8 of the 8 matches. They've not even had a single drawn encounter, and for me, that is why I'm saying Bayern right now on form look like the team that could very well be clinching the UEFA Champions League this year. I know early days, but still, right now it's hard to look past this particular Bayern side. That being said, this particular round of qualifiers has seen a couple of interesting scenarios crop up in terms of teams who have qualified, and one of those, of course, includes Benfica. Now, Benfica were in a bit of an interesting position, because in the group they were drawn in Group H that featured both Juventus and PSG, and not only did Benfica qualify out of that group, they topped that group. So it was quite frankly amazing that they managed to top the group, and even more so that they ended up thrashing Benfica. A bit of a mistake in the graphics here, but they ended up actually thrashing it was Club Brugge 7-1 over 2 legs. So 2 legs they actually ended up winning this match 5-1 first up, 2-0. It was absolutely a mauling, and the fact that Benfica could actually do so well in this particular match, or rather in this particular let's say tournament, is doubly amazing, given the fact that they've lost 2 very key players in recent times. In the summer, they sold Darwin Núñez to Liverpool. In the January transfer window, they sold Enzo Fernandez, the Argentine World Cup winner, to Chelsea. So Benfica, truth be told, have always been a club very, very good at producing talent and also replacing them when they leave. It's part of their business model, but they've done it extremely well, and right now it's hard to actually say that to bet against them continuing their fairy tale run. And speaking of fairy tale runs, another team that deserves that tag, well, AC Milan. So AC Milan, well, they have actually, remember they won the Serie A the previous season, but they've been having a rather poor time of things in their league group this time around, in their league tournament. So this time though, they did finish second in Group E behind Chelsea. They qualified and then they beat Spurs 1-0 over 2 legs. Now again, a 1-0 victory over 2 legs does sound like it was a dull thing, but AC Milan actually played rather well, could have had a few goals. Spurs on the other hand didn't look too good, and we'll be doing a separate video on Spurs. You can check that out later on the channel, but right now the focus on AC Milan, their form which they've shown in the Champions League is actually very much in contrast to their league form, because right now they're actually out of contention pretty much, or I won't say out of contention, but they're not in the Champions League spots if you're looking at the Serie A table. So whilst AC Milan have struggled domestically, in Europe they've looked pretty solid for the most part, and again, considering the kind of pedigree this club comes with in the Champions League, it'd be hard to bet against them continuing their run going forward, but that's just how I feel. So that's the 4 clubs we have so far in the Champions League, and of course talked about the pros and cons, how it is that every team make it. Of course, if you're looking at strength and pedigree in recent times, I'd say that Bayern, definitely the team to beat so far, followed by maybe Chelsea. You might think that's my bias because I'm a Chelsea fan, but simple fact is Chelsea have always been able to pull out good performances in the Champions League, even if their league form hasn't been great. That being said though, both AC Milan and Benfica will also be challengers, but hard to look beyond Bayern Munich. At least that's how I feel about things. What do you guys think? You can let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel, tap that bell icon, leave us a comment, and also follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Last but not least, don't forget to download the AajTak app. And once again, if you're already on the channel, don't forget to subscribe and check out some other videos that we may have done. For now though, from my side, goodbye.